Hey guys, today we will explain to you how to bleed the cartridge of your Selva fork. The tools you will need are medium strength Loctite, the Formula lubricating grease found in the aftermarket box, the Formula FX oil, this too comes standard with your fork, the OJ oil for the cartridge, also supplied, a 10mm wrench, a 4mm hex wrench, a 1.5mm hex wrench, a syringe to insert the oil, another syringe with the bleed connector for the cartridge, available as an accessory, the Formula suspension pump that you will find in the Selva box, and the tool for opening the fork cap, also included with your fork. To do this procedure, we advise you to remove the fork from the bike and put it horizontally on your workbench in a vise. To help, you can use the special Formula adapter to mount the fork onto the vise. If you do not have this adapter, you can also use a normal bike stand. Once the fork is in position, proceed to closing the lockout by rotating the golden lever on the damping side. Now you can remove the rebound adjustment. Using a 4mm hex wrench, remove the screw at the base of the lowers on the damping side of the fork. Once this is done, you can also remove the screw at the base of the lowers on the air side. In the case of a 2-air technology fork, first proceed by unscrewing the bronze cap on the negative chamber located at the base of the lowers on the air side. From here, connect the Formula pump, activate the quick connector, and slowly remove all the air inside the negative chamber. Now, using a 10mm wrench, you can unscrew the air valve. At this point, remove the fork from the vise and hold it in a vertical position above an oil collection tray. Lift the stanchions up slightly by applying light pressure upwards on the arch to release all the oil inside the fork. At the end of this operation, you can put the fork back into the vise for more work. When in place, remove the through axle from the fork. From this working position, you can proceed to extract the lowers. We advise you to place the lowers upright to drain in an oil collection tray, as residual oil may still come out. Now unscrew the black cap that protects the air valve of the positive chamber. In the case of a 2-air technology fork, the positive chamber cap is silver. Connect the Formula pump and activate the quick connector. Once the pump is connected to the valve, remove the fork clamp and place it in a vertical position. At this point, slowly release all the air from the positive chamber. The vertical position prevents any rotation of one or more neoposts if present in the fork. For all information on the neopost installation, follow the link superimposed above now. After this operation, you can put the fork back into the vise in a working position, and you can disconnect the pump from the positive chamber valve. Using a 1.5mm hex wrench, unscrew the set screw that holds the gold lockout lever. Now you can proceed to unscrewing the cartridge using the supplied tool inside the aftermarket box of your fork. After this operation, you can remove the damping cartridge from its position. Using the same golden lockout lever, proceed to unscrew the lockout pin on the cartridge bleed port. At this stage, a slight oil leak is absolutely normal. Now let the oil in the cartridge run out by pouring it into a collection tray. Make sure to pump the cartridge the full range of the travel several times. At the same time, rotate the cartridge around itself, repeatedly pressing the bladder with your hand, taking care not to apply excessive force. Doing this will ensure a complete emptying of the damping cartridge. Now, insert the red rebound adjustment into its position in the cartridge and turn it counterclockwise until it stops. This will ensure the rebound is completely open. Once done, rotate the blue compression adjustment on the head of the cartridge towards the minus sign until it stops. This will result in the compression being completely open. Now you can screw the syringe into the bleed port located at the top of the cartridge. Neither the syringe nor the connector for the purge port are supplied in the aftermarket box of your fork. They must be purchased separately. Now, insert 60 cc's of OJ oil into the syringe. At this point, the actual cartridge purge procedure begins. First things first, place the cartridge in a vertical position as seen here in the video, and slowly compress and extend the piston fully at least 5 times. After this, place the cartridge in a slightly inclined position, grasping the area of the bladder with one hand. Continue to slowly push the piston up and down while carefully rotating the cartridge at the same time, gently pressing the bladder with your hand. Repeat this for at least 12 reps. You'll know there's no more air in the cartridge when bubbles stop rising up into the syringe. Once that occurs, you can fully extend the piston and put the cartridge upright. Now you can unscrew the syringe from the bleed port and pour the remaining OJ oil back into the bottle. From here, insert the locking screw back into the bleed port and tighten it in using the gold lockout lever. Tighten until you feel the locking screw fully rest into place. Now you can reinsert the cartridge back into its position. Using the special tool supplied, tighten the cartridge into place with a torque of 30 Newton meters. If you are not working on a vise and instead on a bike stand, we remind you that you will need someone to help you keep the fork in place while applying the necessary torque. Now put the golden lockout lever back into place and using a 1.5mm hex wrench, tighten the set screw to a torque of 0.2 Newton meters. During this, keep the lockout lever in the fork lock position. To ensure optimal smoothness of the fork, we recommend that you gently clean the inside of the dust seals using a dry paper towel. Then, apply a small amount of Formula suspension grease to the inside of the dust seals. Now connect the Formula suspension pump to the positive chamber valve, activate the quick connector, and enter the desired air pressure. After this operation, you can disconnect the pump from the air valve. Once this is done, you can screw the black cap back on to protect the air valve. We remind you that with a 2-air technology fork, the cap that protects the positive chamber valve is silver. You will notice that at the base of the rods, both on the damping side and on the air side, there is a small flat machining. Turn to orientate both rods so that the flat spots coincide with the back of the fork. Before proceeding with the reintegration of the lowers, make sure that the stanchions are well cleaned. In this case, we recommend using a dry paper towel and a mild detergent. Now you can put your lowers back on the stanchions, but be sure not to push your lowers all the way down at this point. This is crucial for when inserting oil into the lowers. Now fill a syringe with 15 cc's of Formula FX suspension oil and first fill the air side of the lowers through the port at the base of the lowers. Once this is done, refill the syringe again with 15 cc's of Formula FX suspension oil and insert the oil into the damping side through its port on the base of the lowers. At this point, using the rebound adjustment, apply a light amount of Formula suspension grease to the O-rings at the top of the port screws. After this, apply a light amount of medium Loctite to the threads. You can now push your lowers all the way in and make sure that they line up with the internal rods before proceeding. Once done, using a 4mm hex key, you can tighten the screw on the damping side. Torque the screw to 7 Newton meters. Once this is done, unlock the fork by turning the gold lockout lever to the open position. Now, make sure the rod on the air side lines up correctly with the opening. Use the 4mm hex key and tighten the screw into the base of the air side and apply a torque of 7 Nm. In the case of a 2-air technology fork, apply a slight amount of grease to the O-rings of the negative chamber valve. Once this is done, apply a light amount of medium Loctite to the valve threads. At this point, screw the valve back into the base of the lowers on the air side using a 10mm wrench and apply a torque of 7 Nm. Now, engage the fork lockout again. From here, use the Formula suspension pump and insert the desired amount of air into the negative bronze chamber. Then, screw on the bronze cap to protect the negative chamber valve. After that, you can disengage the fork lockout. To complete the job, reinsert the rebound adjustment back into its position. This has been the complete procedure to disassemble, bleed, and reassemble the damping cartridge of your Selva fork.